Sounds like Von Miller 2.0 may be available for Denver tonight, Nick.
Oh, yes, Dana, look at you flashing your football knowledge. His name is Bradley Chubb, but don't let the name fool you. This guy he looks like a Greek god, chiseled out of granite almost. He's 6'4", 270 pounds, and he's the consensus best defensive player in the entire draft. Now, if the Broncos do decide to bolster their defense with Chubb at pick number 5 overall, you can expect this from his reaction.
So I actually got on Twitter and I saw somebody made a poll that I would be the first one to cry out of all the draft prospects. So I thought that was a little disrespectful. So now I won't cry. I'm gonna just smile and be happy. So they ruined the crying thing. If it happened, it was gonna happen, but now I'm making sure I don't do that.
Chubb's an emotional player. He likes to have fun, dance on the field, a lot like the aforementioned Von Miller. And you might be saying, well, what about Shane Ray? We saw during the Broncos' run towards Super Bowl 50 how important it is to have several elite defensive linemen across the front seven, namely DeMarcus Ware and Malik Jackson in that Super Bowl win. We saw how great they were against Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, so adding a guy like Chubb only fortifies that front seven and is sort of in the vein of the way that they built this team when they made that Super Bowl run.
Nick Rothschild was there for the introduction of Chubb. Good evening, Nick.
Well, Rob, I think Broncos country was probably pinching themselves. Did Von Miller 2.0 really fall to us at the 5th overall pick? Well, he did, and we had a chance to meet Bradley Chubb for the first time today, and I got to tell you, he's as impressive in person as he is on tape.
Without further ado, I'll introduce Bradley Chubb.
John Elway got the name right on the introduction, and it seems like he got the pick right, too, at number 5. Defensive menace Bradley Chubb brings a relentless motor to an already scary Denver defense.
I would describe myself as relentless. I mean, that motor came from just always wanting to make plays, always wanting to be around the ball. It's just something that I was raised that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%. So that's my mindset every time I step on the field.
Look at him. I think what you'll really like about Bradley is not only his ability on the field, but also the way he goes about playing the game.
Chubb says the reality of being a Denver Bronco hasn't set in yet. Maybe it will by the time his phone turns back on.
I still haven't checked like half of my messages because my phone froze yesterday from getting all the notifications.
When it comes to football, the rookie says he's ready to learn from some of the game's best already here in Denver, namely Von Miller.
I'm going to be a sponge when I get here, just soak up everything that they have because all of them do it at a high level.
Maybe the Chubb train can keep on rolling in Denver. His cousin Nick is a running back out of Georgia.
If you want 2 Chubbs and 2 great people, great players, then I feel like it's a good decision.
Well, unfortunately, the dream of changing the Denver Broncos to the Denver Chubbs died early in the 2nd round. The Cleveland Browns took Bradley's cousin with the 35th overall pick. But no worries, the Denver Broncos are just happy they're going to be terrorizing AFC West quarterback with the Miller-Chubb connection for the next decade. And Rob, I hear you might have an inside track on who the Broncos took with their 2nd round pick.
For more on the NFL draft, we turn our attention to Denver and join our very own Nick Rothschild. Nick, you like the pick?
Oh, man, I love this pick. And as always, the draft was exciting, but what a tangled web we had at the top of the draft. When the draft started, the Broncos were aggressively trying to trade up to the number 2 pick with the New York Giants in order to take one of 2 quarterbacks, either Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. Now, the trade fell through. Mayfield went number 1 overall to the Browns. Darnold went number 3 to the Jets, so they had to move on to Plan B, and Plan B was the best defensive player in the draft falling right into their lap. Bradley Chubb, last year's College Defensive Player of the Year, was right for the picking, and John Elway said he could not waste the opportunity to take a player that could have an immediate impact on the field.
Edge rush ability.
He's all football. He loves football. You know, and he's going to be a great influence on, on our football team because he's that type of leader and plays with, that kind of tenacity.
He's a good football player. Obviously a great rusher, but also versus the run game, he's a good player. He plays hard. So as far as his position, he's going to be an outside linebacker. So he's a great fit.
The interesting thing, too, Rob, is that the Broncos actually had a trade in place on the table with the Buffalo Bills to get out of that number 5 spot had Bradley Chubb not been there. So if the Browns take Chubb at 4, the Broncos, according to John Elway, are trading out of that number 5 pick directly after. That didn't happen. Chubb is now a Bronco. John Elway also mentioned to us that in all the mock drafts his team did to prepare for the draft, not a single one had Bradley Chubb falling all the way to 5 for the Broncos. So it seems like it was a little bit of fate there. The media here in Denver will get to meet Bradley Chubb for the first time tomorrow at 2:30 p.m.
Nick Rothschild joins us live from the Broncos headquarters with his first impressions of the newest Denver Bronco. Nick, what do you think?
Dana, first of all, let me apologize. I'm not at Casa Bonita. That's where the Broncos will be announcing their picks on day 3 of the draft on Saturday. So no sopapillas for you, no cliff divers. We're not going to see Black Bart's Cave today. Let me get that out of the way on the front end. Second thing, Bradley Chubb is an absolute monster. He's a huge human being. We know Von Miller is big. This dude could eat Von Miller. Bradley took to the stage today at the podium in front of the media for the first time here in Denver, and he handled it like a seasoned professional. He talked about his relentless playing style and his propensity for waging mental warfare on opposing quarterbacks. He also described for us what it means to be a Chubb.
I feel like growing up, my dad would make sure that he held us to a higher standard than everybody else around us. Being a Chubb is something different, and I got to have a higher expectation for myself and for future generations to come as well.
You know, he's an impressive young man both on and off the football field, and the Broncos may want to consider going back to the Chubb well here in the later rounds of the draft. Bradley's cousin, Nick Chubb, he was a running back at the University of Georgia, is now available to be picked. And as we know, the Broncos released C.J. Anderson earlier on in the offseason, so they need a running back. Nick Chubb was thought to be the next Todd Gurley before injuries and the emergence of Sony Michel there in Georgia. So he's a good player. Maybe Bradley will do a little campaigning with John Elway after this press tour is done.
With that hope comes a lot of risk as well. Nick Rothschild joins us now live from Broncos headquarters. And Nick, there's also an equal chance that whoever the Broncos pick might bust.
Well, Heather and Bart, earlier in the week, Todd Davis told us, in John Elway we trust. But to me, that's kind of a dangerous mentality. John Elway hasn't had the best track record when it comes to drafts, especially at the top of the draft. Of his 6 first-round picks, only one of them has made the Pro Bowl. That's Von Miller. So he hit there. Elway, though, says that he plans to use past mistakes to influence future drafts.
What we try to do is you try to learn from the mistakes that you make. You know, it's tough because there's so many factors that go into it, and so many hidden things that you really can't see that you hope that come out in players and background and character that you find that they're going to enable these players to come and make the step to the NFL.
Look, I think the most important thing we need to remember is that the draft is inherently inexact and subjective. We like to cover it like it's science, assigning numbers to everything. But when you're dealing with young kids growing into men, injuries, life stuff, and motivation issues, this is more subjective than it is objective. But John Elway is the man in charge. As he likes to say, he's the one making the decisions. So whatever happens tonight, John will get the blame or the credit for what happens at pick number 5 overall in this draft. Hey there, guys. Many experts believe that Josh Allen, the quarterback of Wyoming, would be the first overall pick to the Browns coming into today. But Allen woke up to a draft day nightmare. Racially combative tweets from 2012 surfaced late last night, early this morning, and forced Allen to address and apologize for them. Now, I'm not sure if Allen is even on the Broncos board, but John Elway said earlier in the week that when it comes to character concerns, he's not that concerned when it comes to the top of the draft board.
But it's usually not the guys at the top of the board. Usually there's character issues and things that get ruled out down the bottom of the board, and we eliminate guys as we go. But usually the top of the board guys don't get eliminated.
The thing I'd be more concerned about with Josh Allen is his similarities to Paxton Lynch, big athletic quarterback who really didn't do much as far as production goes at a small school. In my opinion, I don't think the Broncos are interested in Josh Allen, but what they may be interested in is a guy by the name of Sam Darnold out of USC. Word here is that the Broncos are aggressively trying to trade up to the second overall pick that is currently owned by the New York Giants with hopes of taking potentially Sam Darnold at quarterback. So John Elway, never a dull moment in the Broncos war room. It sounds like he's already wheeling and dealing tonight. No word on if those trades will go through by the time we get to the second overall pick.
I feel the need to go back to Broncos HQ and join Nick Rothschild. And Nick, you know, there was a theme among these draft picks. They didn't really realize the Broncos were the Broncos had them on their radar.
Yeah, you know what, Rob? Case Keenum, probably the happiest guy in Dove Valley today. The offense was the focal point for John Elway and the Broncos in day 2 of the draft. In the second round, they go for SMU wide receiver Cortland Sutton. Then in the third round, they go running back, maybe one of the more productive backs in all of college football, Oregon's Royce Freeman. And then at the back end of the third round with pick 99, they shore up the secondary with Isaac Yiadom out of Boston College. Now, as you mentioned, Rob, interestingly enough, the first 3 picks in the NFL draft for the Broncos didn't even know they were on the Broncos' radar. And that may be by design, according to John Elway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got to hide everything from you, right? So if I let too many things out, then, I mean, I got to play hide and go seek with you guys all the time when it comes down to who we're going to pick, because I got to try to keep it quiet.
Obviously with Freeman, I mean, he is a big back with speed. You know, so when you're down there in the red zone, you want to run the football. I mean, he's definitely a nice option.
I demand respect wherever I am on the field, whether it's in the slot, whether it's on the outside on the right or the left, wherever I'm in on the field, and if it's a pass play or a run play, you know, defenses have to know where I'm at.
You know, that's the voice of Cortland Sutton, Broncos country. You're going to like this kid. He's very excitable and very talented. The Broncos believe he has the possibility of being a number 1 wide receiver someday, but he's still a bit raw. He'll be vying for the number 3 wide receiver in the Broncos offense this coming year. As for running back Royce Freeman, think of him as maybe a little bit faster C.J. Anderson, but there's a lot of tread on those tires, almost 950 rushing attempts in college. So we'll see if he can hold up. Isaac Yiadom, the cornerback out of Boston College, well, probably going to start on special teams, but he could see some time in the nickel package, and he has a really hard-to-pronounce last name, Yiadom. I got to practice that one. Broncos have 4 more picks coming up in day 3, both in the 4th and the 5th round. We'll have all that coverage tomorrow on KRDO News Channel 13. For now, from Broncos headquarters at Dove Valley, I'm Nick Rothschild for KRDO News Channel 13 Sports.
All right, thanks, Nick. Good work tonight.